Chairman Randy Abner.
Here.
Secretary Dennis Hutchins.
Present.
Member Owen Cross.
Here.
Member Paul Seymour Senior.
Present.
Lawrenceburg School Board Member Brian Johnson.
Present.
City Attorney Del Long.
Here. Thank you. Everybody had a chance to look at their meetings from the last, minutes from the last meeting. We'll take a quick step and not accept the change.
So moved.
Move to accept. You have a second?
Second.
All in favor? Aye.
Oh, really?
Passed. You got a loud one, hey, you got a loud one. Quiet.
I didn't know you started today. My apologies.
Do I have any announcements from the board? Hearing none, I'll move on to.
Can I have an announcement?
Oh, Mr. Messer.
It's actually a request. Figured I'd stick it under announcements. Kelly Brookbank and I are working on the RFPs for the property located around the Civic Park area. And in the model we're following, it would require the average of 2 appraisals to be identified for the vacant space from the demolition of the Thomas Scudder property. So I'd be requesting the permission to get commercial appraisal on that piece of property, so I can include it in the RFP.
You're talking about the empty
Yeah.
lots, both of them?
Well, it's B1, ultimately, which may, we have to pre-survey to do that properly.
Don't we have
would
to,
possibly need to do a consolidation survey if you want it all locked into one parcel, one development.
do we need a motion to do that, to consolidate into one?
I would prefer to work under the direction of the board in those 2 pieces. One, to look at the consolidation of the property on a survey, and the ability to go, once that's complete, to get appraisals.
I'll make the motion you just identified. So we need a motion to consolidate the parcels, the 2 properties into one parcel. And I have a second.
I will second.
And a second by Owen. All in favor?
Aye.
All against?
You know, I'm gonna say nay. I got something in the back of my mind.
I'm against it too.
I need a roll call.
Okay, Member Owen Cross.
Yes.
Member Randy Abner.
Yes.
Member Dennis Hutchins.
No.
Member Paul Seymour Senior.
No.
That'd be 2-2.
And that means you get your roll call.
Well, my vote is yea.
Can we find out what's in the back of the mine? I mean, there might be something there that they've got that.
I was gonna
I don't even know.
ask.
I don't even
Yeah.
know what it
Pretty
is.
good question to ask, Tony, I guess.
You can finish your vote,
Well,
then I'll
let's
ask.
just hang on here.
Take a time out.
Is there any discussion on it? I mean, that's a good
Well, the
discussion.
thing that I'm asking is if you turn it into one lot, you've got one person to buy the 2 lots, right?
Right.
But maybe he don't want, or she don't want both lots. Then we gotta turn right around and divide it again. But if you can do what you wanna do without dividing that lot.
My thought was similar, but why don't we do one piece, the whole thing, and also do it in 2 pieces? Make it an option. So we don't have to come back and spend more money again. Seems like we're always doing these things, and then we have to go back and do them again.
Well,
I guess my
For
question,
consideration.
Brian, is what's the ultimate goal?
the ultimate goal was to offer that property up through an RFP process to a potential developer who may be interested in acquiring that property and building a 1st floor retail
Can we show
upstairs.
it as 2 properties if they want both, or? I'm talking about a presentation wise as well.
Do we have some interest in one big parcel or 2 parcels?
We haven't generated any interest at this point.
Okay.
So,
How about Mike Clark? Which would be the easiest and smartest way to go, Mike?
either way, you have to.
No,
you
don't
have
you be
to-
riding the fence.
You can do it one way or the other, and then it would be easy to either split it or combine it later. The only thing I would recommend that at a minimum, you go ahead and get a boundary survey and get pins set, so we have that established for marketing tool, so we can physically show somebody the
We
corner.
need some, ultimately, we wanted some continuity on that lot when it's developed, right? We were never thinking about developing those lots, that lot separately.
Well, and it was always mine, and this is only my understanding, I don't have a
Right.
opinion one way or the other, is that everyone talks about, hey, we took those two big buildings down, it's not a very big piece of property.
Right.
And for you to get the most bang for your buck, it would be one development instead of somebody coming in,
You're talking about
and
going
then,
to the carpet.
then you're stuck with another small piece of property,
Then
but, guys, that's your call.
If it's one piece, I'm okay, as long as there's not it's the whole thing.
It's the whole thing.
I stand
Well,
corrected.
that's been passed.
I'm fine with that.
Discussion, all right, so
You just wanted my
I will
opinion.
vote yea,
I'll change my vote to yes.
then we have to revote, do we?
That's still a question, but I'm not sure if we
Do we have to revote that after the first time?
What if he wants to change his vote on the roll call?
No, I'd say it's appropriate on the record. Are you changing your vote or are you abstaining?
I'm changing my vote to
yea.
yes.
Okay, I would just, have an entirely new vote, just so the record's clean.
Okay, I have a motion to take the two parcels on Short Street and pick one. So,
I'm sorry, I
Go out for
misunderstood.
so do I have a motion?
Yes.
Motion by Randy, do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Dennis, all in favor?
Aye.
Any nays?
Nay.
Roll call is
Roll call.
member Owen Cross,
Yes.
member Randy Abner.
Yes.
Member Dennis Hutchins.
Yes.
Member Paul Seymour Senior.
No.
Motion passed 3-1.
Did that motion include an appraisal?
Not yet, that's where we're getting to.
Okay.
Now I need a motion to have that property appraised once it's one parcel.
I'll make the motion.
A motion by Randy, second by Dennis, all in favor?
Aye.
All against?
No.
Roll call, please.
Member Owen Cross,
Yes.
member Randy Abner,
Yes.
member Dennis Hutchins,
Aye.
member Paul Seymour Senior.
No.
Motion passed 3-1. Alrighty, moving on. We were in announcement. Any other announcements, Mr. Messmore?
I don't have any at this time.
Move on to the financial report.
Okay, as of March 5th, 2018, the balance for redevelopment is $2,500,522.40. And after monies towards projects, it's $1,568,158.15.
Thank you. Moving on to new business. Mr. Messmore, E&R Rentals.
Okay, thank you. These are the properties located at 224, 242, and 252 East High, owned by E&R Rentals. If you will remember, we
Mr. Messmore, take no action at this time.
Do we need a vote on that or not? No, don't do it. He didn't accept our offer, so.
Vote would be good, just for the record.
Okay. So,
Motion stands.
a motion by Dennis, do I have a second?
I'll second.
Second by Randy, all in favor?
Aye.
Against? Motion passed, unanimous. Car wash, Mr. Messmore.
Okay, I had a request from the police department and the mayor's office to perhaps go out for appraisals on the car wash, which is located at the corner of Tate and Lake. By the way, I could not find a numeric address for that. So, it's an adjacent property, and it could fulfill some future needs. So the question to the board is, I'm asking for permission to have that property appraised.
Okay, so, they want to add on to the police department with that property, aren't you? I mean, if we can, that's.
Well, my question would be, is it for sale?
Yes,
Do we know a number?
it's for sale.
Have you
So we don't know a number?
Well, it's more than $24,999.
Okay, okay, all right. So we need to get it appraised,
Yeah.
possibly, then, okay.
Yeah.
So can I have a motion to have the property, the car wash property appraised?
So moved.
Second?
I'll second that.
Second by Mr. Seymour, all in favor?
Aye.
Motion passed. Get it appraised.
Okay, what I would like to do is skip the Anchor Lawrenceburg 1 LLC agreement and go through the rest of the agenda items on new and old business, and then we can save that for last,
Okay.
with the board's permission.
That's fine.
Okay, next is 519 Martin Luther King. Mr. Dave Staub. Dave, I'll let you step up here, but when we originally had, made the recommendation to sell this piece of property, Mr. Staub, he had planned on his father purchasing the property and building a home for his father, but he's had some illness come into it, and Dave wanted to be right with us and let us know what's going on, and also request that he go ahead and, his other homes are sold, that he go ahead and complete the deal, the transaction for himself and build a market home. Did you have anything you needed to add to that?
No, that was about it.
Dave, are you gonna furnish us with a letter from the bank?
I have one with me.
You do?
Yeah.
If you give that to Mr. Missmore, that'd be great. My opinion, Mr. Chairman, is that Dave's been a good builder, he's been faithful to us, and he did the right thing, he came forward, just said my dad's health has turned south on him, and, I'd still like to build a house, we'd like to have a house built there, I don't know why we wouldn't support him.
Sounds great to me, but I just have one question. If we take it from the father, can we give it to the son, or do we have to
That sounds
advertise it
religious.
again? Do we have to advertise it again?
No, we've sold a lot to Dave. The intention, the end user has just changed, so I think it's perfectly fine. And I would also note that I think that this home would be subject to the new Main Street first-time homebuyer rules, the percentage, as long as the rest of the qualifications are met.
So we want a $350,000.
No, yeah, well, but that's why we did that, and maybe this one isn't, but, Dave and everyone else who's building houses downtown, we really wanna encourage, more expensive houses with better materials, and that's why we raised that cap.
Okay.
So do we need a motion to do it?
I would, yes, sir, for the record.
I'll make that motion that we allow him to maintain the lot and build it for a future buyer.
Okay, we have a motion by Dennis. All second. Second by Randy, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Against? Motion passed.
Thanks, guys.
Anchor.
I would like to continue with old business real quick, before we go back to Anchor.
Okay, you wanna do the old business too? All
Hey,
of it?
Yeah.
Brian, can I ask you something under old business before you get into that one?
Yep.
The two that are by Acapulco's, one across and one across short and then the other across on High Street. Yeah. Do we have a date set to demo?
Yeah, they're under old business.
Oh, I'm sorry, I jumped ahead on you.
Yeah,
I'll wait.
okay, thank you.
Sure.
Maple Street project, we got a note from Herman and Kittle that they've determined that the score is not high enough to be competitive. So we have terminated the purchase contract. That project is off, but as I have talked to board members over time, it appears that there is still some interest. And in fact, I talked to somebody today about continuing to try to find a senior housing / multifamily development for that particular site. If the board could grant me permission to keep that as the end use for that property, I will continue to pursue that solution.
Seems to be the best fit for that property.
So,
Did you say senior housing?
And or multi-housing, multifamily.
I thought we deemed that just for senior housing. That's,
We have a problem with the soil there for kids playing, and it has to be.
Senior housing's fine, I just thought I'd leave it open in case something opened up, but if something opens up, I'll come back.
Well, let's ask the question again then, can we put a single house in there that's,
Not single housing,
Single house. You could-
senior housing.
You could
What'd you
put a
say, senior?
type of a multifamily development.
so we go back to the senior issue, that's fine.
Yeah.
So I need a motion to reserve Maple Street property for senior housing. How's that?
Oh, I'll make that motion.
A motion by Dennis, second by,
We all know what's
All in
wrong with the
favor?
property, so.
Aye.
yes? Alright, motion passes, reserved for senior.
All right. In your packets, I'm not gonna go over it individually, but you've been provided, from Main Street, the Main Street and Lawrenceburg Redevelopment Commission incentive, application to review for yourself. If you have any questions, please feel free to give myself or,
I have a comment. Since I'm the one that recommended this oversight, I was very pleased to see this in there. And I know, Brian, you're sitting on the boards, and we have Kelly as a backup, right? I'm very happy to have this report.
Hannah, thank you.
I don't know how you guys feel, but did you read it? It's good. It's good stuff. Thanks, Pat.
Okay, 542 West High and 300 Margaret. These are the two properties that we have closed on. We are prepared, I may have over there, but I believe we're prepared to begin the bid process for demolition on both those properties.
The 300 Margaret, that's the one on the corner across the street from Octopolis?
That's correct.
Okay, and that includes the little yellow house behind it too?
No, that's another address.
that's Arch Street.
Okay, so that's not done yet?
No.
Okay.
But I do have a comment on
I
that.
know we were getting them together.
We are.
Both of those that Brian just mentioned will be in Thursday's paper, advertising for them.
So there's nobody living in the other one?
No.
But
This is 300 Margaret and 542 West High.
I've got one question. Would it cost us less to hold off on 300 Margaret and when we're ready for the Arch Street one, to do them both at the same time? Instead of bringing-
I don't think.
any savings there at all.
I think we get better pricing if somebody thinks that, hey, I might get them both, but I could at least get one
Okay.
instead of putting all their eggs in one basket.
I'm for going forward.
All right?
Okay, thank you. And if I could, the property on the other side of the street from Acapulco's, the Berry property, I'd like to have permission, once the closing is done, to continue with the, as a demo project.
That's where I was confused. I thought you were talking about the Berry property.
That's okay.
This one. That's why I thought we had to do the yellow house behind it at the same time. So this was the white house we just.
That's
talked
correct.
about. Okay.
I'm in favor of giving Mr. Messmer that permission.
A motion by Dennis, do I have a second? I'll second. Second by Randy, all in favor?
Aye.
Against?
You guys are easy tonight.
As long as it gets done in 50 days, no, I'm just kidding.
We'll meet again before then.
Did you instruct Mr. Messmer, the evening's not over yet?
I know.
You said it was easy.
All right. Okay, 140 West High, just, we continue to, I may have some input from Mr. Todd over here, but we are still working on finalizing the required foundation for the exterior wall. And Mr. Todd, would you like to fill us in on where you're at with that, please?
I passed out the latest draft we have on the rehab. I think you guys have the first pricing from Top Quality. We've kind of, you'll see the numbers have changed. We've kind of added some, I'm gonna say window dressing to it, limestone caps, some lintel, just to make it look a little more period. I think the change is probably about $2,200 $1,500 from your last quote there. The drawing you have with that pretty well spells out the plan to re-brick the veneer, the outside of that wall section, to reinforce the footing and foundation section. There will be a change looking at the foundation footing. We're gonna probably increase a little more reinforcement in there. We should have that update yet this week.
Is that below ground?
That is below ground. We did the experimentals here a week or so ago.
So it wouldn't impede anybody coming out of the side of that building with French doors?
No, it's gonna actually help if you're gonna do any type of penetrations. We've kind of taken that into consideration as we talk to some of the members with some future plans.
And everything you're doing is gonna blend in with the rest of the neighborhood.
Correct.
That's what we need.
And as Dennis just mentioned, if there's gonna be any other ingress, regress on that side, we wanna make sure that we can accommodate that.
You know, Mr. Chairman, I know we all wanna get this done, but like we were talking about before, part of our concern was to get it done before the winter because of, and the firehouse too, with the heat issue and any damage from the winter, from the ice and the water behind it. Seems like, I'm not trying to delay it on purpose, but we've got the whole year. The Civic Park's gonna get started pretty soon. Can we wait a few months and take a look at this? And is there an urgency to this, is what I'm asking?
The urgency is actually the park construction itself. We wanna be ahead of that park construction.
But, all right, I'll give you that, but how much room does it really take to put this veneer wall up or these repairs?
You know, that 20-foot access there, that's probably not enough even to go ahead and do the scaffolding, do the lay down, and do the pouring of, like, say, the footing in the wall.
Really?
Yeah, we're gonna be in and out there with some equipment to put that wall section in.
Well,
And the reason I give you that 20 foot, in other words, if you'd say, go ahead, let the
I'm
park.
familiar
go
with the
there
20
first.
feet, it used to be ours.
Right.
Personally.
Right, but we would hardly have enough room to even get onto that construction site, and you have Paul here, he can kind of tell you, you need more room, you know, just cause it's straight up, we're gonna need
I'd
some.
like to hear from Paul if he doesn't mind.
Paul, he said he'd like to hear from you.
You got an opinion there, Paul?
I mean, I like the project, but I don't like the timing for one reason. And there's pluses and there's minuses here. If we do this project, when you lay brick, you're planning it. This wall will be planned. I would much rather see us aggressively go out and try to buy her for that right now. I mean, get on it. There's got to be some people. There was some interest, because what I'm worried about, Mario, is when I envision this, and if I was the buyer of that building, I would much rather have that 80 grand put in front of me and the city willing to make this wall look like you got it going on here, because I think that's the right thing to do. But what I'm worried about is what if this next guy wants to put a couple of window garage doors to roll up and have a patio on this thing this year? What if he doesn't like the windows up above and they're gonna be a little bigger, a little littler, or something in the second floor? I know this it's about 50%. I think.
Well, you remember, Paul, we were directed to come up with a scheme and a fix for that building that was gonna accelerate the use of that lot. I mean,
Well,
if the plans have changed with the direction from the board, I mean, that's the board's decision.
I mean, I would rather, I'm thinking of this building and not considering when we get started on this lot, I'm hoping we have some interest in this damn building to where somebody would be ready to come right in. And I think that if we spend this money on this building right now, that money disappears. These people that come to us, they don't care how much we spend. I mean, they're gonna sit back and think, well, that might not be what I wanna do, but I think if we, something like this is gonna have to be done.
Right.
There's no doubt about it. Something like this is gonna have to be and need to be done.
We're trying this to secure the building for the winter months and try to get things secure so we don't lose the wall.
Guys, I hope this building is sold and somebody's working on it. I'm hoping that when this park starts, I mean, there was a couple people that were interested in this thing.
Okay, I got one question on that, as far as securing it. Didn't we find out that the problem was in the roof part of it, the water's coming down behind it?
That's residential.
It's Tony, there's a lot of, it's just wide open. The problem's all over the wall. It's up the top, it's on the bottom. If you look at the bottom, it's because of
That was
the,
the initial culprit.
Right,
There-
so what I'm saying, if the roof is fixed, then the wall will stay in the shape it is in right now. If there's no more water leaking back behind it.
nah,
I don't think the building's gonna fall down over the summer, if that's what your concern is.
We're not gonna lose
I
the
did-
wall.
Please?
We're not gonna lose the wall.
No, I don't think it's gonna fall down. The concern is the plaster that's,
Pieces can fall down.
yeah, the plaster that's on the wall itself, and that's the cosmetic dressing, I guess you would say, on that wall. That's coming down as we speak.
Well, I wanna address something that Paul brought up. You know, this garage door concept, Pat, you're saying that, this, you know, Finley, you know, where they do, I mean, they roll their garage doors down. This could be marketed to a Finley concept because of the park, where 2 or 3 garage doors roll up and down and people do their thing, like Finley, you know, that's a cool place over there.
we just had an ice
We don't know
cream
where
shop.
this is going, is what I'm saying.
We just had an ice cream shop feel like it was important to get 2 windows in on that side of the park, so they might want 6 windows all the way across there and some kind of steel structure in that
This
thing.
leads to that.
Yes.
So and when you do a brick job and then you go back in, you cut it, you take out, you put in, you do all this stuff, I guarantee that if you can make it look good until they come in and wanna change it, and then once you come in and change it, it's gonna look like somebody came in and did a remodel on it and it just, that. We're gonna have to do it, but all I'm saying, guys, is do you spend that 70 grand an hour, or do you spend it in 2 months? Well, hopefully 2 months, or dangle it out there for the carrot.
Mike?
Just a couple comments. I mean, what this plan does constitutes 2 things. One, it does repair the wall permanently.
We can't hear you, Mike.
It repairs the wall permanently. The second thing is, it makes it aesthetically pleasing to the eye. And my biggest thought here is, we're gonna put a $6 million park right there. I personally think we ought to get this thing done, and I hear what Paul's saying about cutting indoors and windows later, but and Paul can attest to this, that they do it every day to suit on what their needs are. And one thing you guys gotta remember too, and Dennis, this 20 feet, it's still, that right there, I believe is just an easement, isn't it?
Correct.
Yeah.
I mean, that's still redevelopment. Now, there is a perpetual easement that if anyone buys that property and wants to utilize that area.
Well, we're gonna have to figure out a way to give that back to the city.
But.
We need to fix that.
And that can be done very easily. I mean, Dale can handle that with no problem, just making a.
That 20 feet is critical to the stage area.
Right.
That should be done before this is done.
It's critical.
But one other comment is that this plan, and it doesn't mean we can't go back, this plan has been presented to the Historic Preservation Commission and was awarded a certificate of appropriateness for that. So that was one thing we had to do before we could, go any further with any type of exterior repairs, but that has been accomplished already.
Alright, so we're looking for a motion to either move on.
I just wanted to comment, I think there's couple things going on here. Obviously, we don't wanna be in the middle of it. Paul, I think you're correct. I mean, we hope that these properties would sell quickly. But in the case that it doesn't, we certainly do not wanna be having to fix that wall after we get the park going. Both for aesthetic reasons and also, I mean, we don't want equipment in there tearing up the park that we just put in. So I think there's a couple different ways to look at this. You gotta make one and live with it, but the thing is I think the ultimate reality is it's gotta be done, either now or later. Something's gotta be done. My only fear is if you wait and something happens and that piece of property doesn't sell right away, or before the park is completed in October, that we have to go back and tear up part of the park to get the work done. That would be my fear.
It would almost, I don't know what the first thing we should do here, because saying that, say we do the wall, now somebody buys it and they wanna put in 3 big garage doors there, they're gonna tear that park up getting there and do that.
Yeah, but that has less impact putting those 3 doors in than us putting that wall from the footing to the gable.
I don't know about that. I mean, I'm sure people, construction know more about that.
What kind of a time limit are we talking? Does anybody have an idea?
I'm sorry, Paul?
The time?
For the wall,
Yeah, if we
2
start
weeks,
2 weeks,
2 weeks after the footing, 2 weeks to lay the block or brick up on it.
How long to get the footing done?
Probably a week.
You know, guys,
We know what we want.
that roadhouse, because if you're on the inside of that roadhouse, the way it's laid out, we don't own the interior. Okay, we know that.
Correct.
And make it
I'm telling you, that park is so instrumental, like the strong pizza where they put the ice cream parlor in. I think that if we market this thing right, Pat, we get the lady from Cincinnati involved, she's dying to do a project for us. We figure something with the Finley Park look, and we've got roll open doors here, where every event and all summer, there's gonna be vendors in there.
And I agree with you, Dennis, I agree wholeheartedly. I think everybody up here probably agrees with you. But the reality is we don't know when that thing would sell. Or any of those properties.
But we could make that decision on our own as to how we wanna treat that building if we wanted to.
But you guys still have a buyer.
I was gonna suggest that, it sounds like we're looking to do some ingress egress from that side. So, I mean, if this board would like for us to come up with some other ideas or concepts.
That is absolutely critical. The stage is right next to it. It's a permanent stage.
Well, how about
Right now.
this was an update tonight, how about we veer down that road and we come up with some,
Yeah.
alternative
That's it,
egress on that?
Brian, you bet.
You guys help me do that, and we'll just look at what the best place, I mean, it's gonna be obvious.
You can come up with the idea of putting garage doors in courtyard or access.
I'll tell you, I can just, Kelly, I can almost see it.
And if somebody doesn't want it, that buys it, they can,
All right, we can follow those directions.
Alright, so we'll just leave it as it is, and you guys do some further study on some garage doors for us.
Well, Your Honor, just follow up on what Dennis said, for whatever it's worth, at some point, we do have to start marketing these properties, and if we would've, say we would've started 3 months ago, we might have 4 or 5 conceptuals on the table right now.
I don't think we're too late either to
No,
get
we're not,
started now.
definitely not, but we gotta start at some point.
And you need to get that easement off that.
I can see those
Yes,
as
sir, Your
an
Honor.
exciting thing for that stage. I really can.
Okay, that's good direction. That's why I pay you.
It's Paul's fault. He brought it up.
No.
That was a group
Okay, so we're.
Group effort.
Any other old business?
So that concludes, my list of new and old business for the evening. And next on the agenda would be back to new business. It would be Anchor Lawrenceburg 1 LLC, the Millhouse Market property, and Mr. Scott Hale, who's here to discuss a possible change to the original agreement.
In your honor, if it pleases, the commission and Director Messmore, I have one issue under new business that I would, ask you to just address quickly on Mr. Hale's, preparing. And the item that I would like to bring up, I, was able to discuss, with the owners at 176 East High Street, Rob and Lori Johns, and confirm that they have finished construction. I was able to confirm with Carl Frum in the building department that they were able to receive a certificate of occupancy, and they did install a firewall. The next step would be for them to bring their invoice to Ms. Brookbank. And so the only thing that I would need from the commission tonight would just be a vote to approve the payment of the distribution of the firewall grant based on their completion and proof that they built the firewall.
Do you remember how much that was?
I think they're it's 9,000. Dennis, do you remember how much firewall grant is?
That was what it
We've
was.
only done what,
Is that right,
It
Mr.
was
Seymour?
9,000.
I think it's 9,000.
It's been a while back.
Yeah, it's 9,000, and that, I think, would be the last one, except for the one for the last row house, because the Davis property received their firewall grant earlier, late last year.
Okay, so I need a motion to pay the firewall grant of $9,000 to John,
176 East High Street.
176 East High. So moved on completion. Got a motion by Dennis, do I have a second? Second by Randy, all in favor? Yes?
They had to have it.
Yeah. Yeah, they were forced to do it.
Thank you.
Moving on, Mr. Hill.
Thank you. I had sent booklets. Did you guys get one? Everybody get one?
Could you speak up a little?
Yes, I will do my best. Okay. So that I won't forget anything, I would just like to read this. It's about 5.5 minutes long. Just a presentation, if that's okay.
I'm on it. Keep going.
Okay.
You're on the clock.
I asked to be included in tonight's meeting to request that a tenant, Planet Fitness, be added as an anchor tenant candidate to the grant funding agreement for the Millhouse Market Shopping Center redevelopment. I know when we drafted the verbiage for the grant funding agreement, we used 3 tenants we had that showed interest at that time. I knew you guys really wanted the IGA as a tenant in Lawrenceburg, and I really wanted Eric Robbie, the owner of the IGA franchise, to be successful. I pushed really hard to make him successful by giving him a long free rent period, a very low rent rate, and all kinds of help, including a $100,000 loan to help with his equipment. In spite of all this, the IGA closed after a short run. Since then, I have talked with 2 other successful IGA operators in hopes that they would be interested in opening an IGA in our shopping center. Both eventually told me that it wouldn't work for 2 reasons. 1, the space was too large, and 2, the competition is very tough and there's another IGA 3.5 miles down the road. Both of them said that the store would always struggle. Since we named only 3 tenants on the grant funding agreement, and since I made a promise to the bank to acquire the grant money, I am bound to keep looking for an IGA tenant, possibly for years, while the space sits vacant. And when IGA may not even be the best tenant for the development or Lawrenceburg. I believe that ultimately both Anchor and the city of Lawrenceburg want the same thing. I have acted with that in mind at every step. I do want an IGA grocery, but only if it's a profitable and stable store for many years to come. If it has to struggle and we have to worry year after year if it is going to make it, or it closes and reopens constantly, I believe both of our interests are better served with another regional national tenant that has a strong and successful business plan and a proven track record. I know the city of Lawrenceburg has given grants to several businesses over the years, and I hope that most of them have lived up to your expectations. There have probably been more than a few that have opened, got the grant money, and then had to close soon after. I want you guys to know that I am putting forth my best effort to make sure that I live up to your expectations and to make sure that all decisions I make are geared towards the long-term success of the development. That is why we need long-term tenants. Tractor Supply is a strong long-term tenant with a proven record of success, and now we have another tenant that's interested. Planet Fitness is also a strong, long-term tenant with a proven record of success. I'm very excited that we have this opportunity with Planet Fitness. I feel that both Tractor Supply and Planet Fitness will stay for decades. Having two successful tenants like those will also help bring us a third long-term tenant, which could be an IGA or any number of national or regional long-term tenants. Although at this time I don't know the tenant that will take the last small portion of the Kroger space, it certainly will be a long-term high-quality tenant like those two tenants. The diversity of 3 tenants versus 2 tenants in the old Kroger space gives more to offer customers, which in turn should draw more shoppers to the area, which helps ensure the success of the center and all its tenants. Long-term tenants that have a proven track record of success are critical for the success of the shopping center long-term. The stability of tenants and the long leases also allow us to get the bank on board with funding for future renovations that in turn keep tenants happy and the center looking good, perpetuating long-term success. I would like to go over some key points about Planet Fitness. Planet Fitness's model allows them to open and survive in markets that already have traditional gyms because they have a broad demographic appeal, catering to the 80% of the population that does not belong to the gym, that does not belong to a gym. They have a very non-intimidating environment. They don't have traditional free weight barbells or any dumbbells over 80 pounds like other gyms. They instead focus on multiple machine weights to alleviate the wait time of the workout. This allows other traditional gyms and fitness concepts to still thrive in the same market. Planet Fitness is partners with Boys and Girls Clubs of America, which is the nation's leading youth development organization, supporting millions of teens and kids during the critical out-of-school time. Planet Fitness is also partners with Stomp Out Bullying, which is the top anti-bullying organization in the U.S. Planet Fitness provides corporate support, fundraising, and training to Boys and Girls Clubs of America. Since Planet Fitness is 24 hours, 7 days per week, they will employ more than 20 people. In addition, they may employ between 2 to 7 additional trainers at any given time. Planet Fitness will draw customers from a 30-minute drive time. Since working out and fitness is a daily routine, these customers will be coming to Lawrenceburg several times per week on a regular basis, which is a great benefit to Lawrenceburg. My goal and the city of Lawrenceburg's goal was to transform a mostly vacant, rundown property that was an eyesore into an attractive, busy, successful development that would benefit the city of Lawrenceburg and Anchor Development for many years to come. I believe Planet Fitness is a huge step in that direction. And so, any questions?
So you're here tonight, you're saying that if you get this Planet Fitness in here, then once it's in, then that would, the grant would be satisfied
Instead of the IGA.
instead of the IGA?
That's correct.
And this is half the space that the IGA took?
No, it's, the space was originally 58,000 square feet, and there will be 17,000 feet left. So it takes most of the space. It's going to cost quite a bit to subdivide. We've got the wall. We have to build the ceiling, the front facade, all that stuff with subdivision. That's pretty expensive. So, but I think Planet Fitness is worth it because if you've driven by one, they look very professional, and they're long term. And I don't know of one that's ever closed. And I think that's the key, because they're doing a 10-year lease, and for 10 years, they'll be here for sure. So hopefully for 30 years.
Mr. Chairman, we're having questions. I was here when you made your initial proposal. If I remember right, we had an executive session. And after that executive session, we had an open session. And you came back several months later for an update on another issue. And as I sat in all 3 of those meetings, the grocery store was a major factor in our minds. IGA was the name. It was kind of a secret at that time, or we weren't talking about it. But if it seems to me as the Tractor Supply or the IGA were the two most important parts of that agreement. And I know I voted to give you the money based on you completing the whole mall, don't get me wrong, the asphalt, the face, the lift, the whole deal. But it was primarily on those two components of the anchors, in my mind.
Right.
And I have to tell you, it's, anybody you wanna put in there is your business, there's no question. But, I mean, I still think we're entitled to know why we can't get an adequate food supplier in there like an IGA.
Well, I've talked,
And that was our deal with you. Now, if I'm wrong, Val, you correct me. But that's how I remember this thing. I mean, I sat in this very seat, and I remember it vividly.
yeah, I was excited about the IGA too. I thought, you know, I tried hard to make the deal work. And, you know, I kept looking because I'm bound by that agreement to get an IGA, so I can't really look for any other tenants. I have to get an IGA. And we found two people, you know, actually two Patels, believe it or not. And they're very successful. And both of them turned me down. You know, I'd offered them quite substantial free rent and low rent and everything else. And, you know, they just, after they talked to IGA and talked around and tried to figure out the cost, the food cost and everything, they were not interested in the area.
Well, again, I'm sorry to repeat myself, but when we voted to give, it was a great amount of money in my mind. And it was one of our first actions. It was either the first month or the second month that we received it. And I have to tell you, I voted for that amount of money for the whole component, but the two missing pieces were the two anchors. And I personally, as a member of this, I have to stick with that. That's how I feel about it. I don't have a problem with you putting somebody else in. That's
Well,
your
I can't financially I mean, I have to, the grant money would be used to actually fund the Planet Fitness going in. So, you know, I don't want to pass on them. I think they're a great tenant. I think they're a wonderful tenant, and they'll be here for a long time. They've got a successful business plan.
Well, I would have to defer, Mr. Chairman, to our legal advice on it. I didn't make the contract. I mean, I don't know all the details, but Val wants to.
Well, we had three tenants. We had 3 tenants interested, so we just included those 3 tenants. You know, we had the Tractor Supply, which we got, the IGA, which we worked hard, and we got them, but they went out, and then we had Dunham Sports, which at the time was interested, but we went with IGA because I knew you guys wanted IGA, and now this year I tried to get Dunham Sports again after IGA had closed, but they had already changed their business plan. They said that they're not opening too many stores this year, and there was one that was fairly close in the town called Harrison, maybe, or that would probably cannibalize that store, is the way he put it.
Again, we got excited about IGA because you made us excited about IGA.
Yeah, that's a good point, Dennis. And I do want to clear that up for the record. We never requested IGA at any point, and I've said that a couple times, Scott, which isn't accurate. And so, in terms of purely legal position, the agreement, while it was short, is written very specifically, and it said we would contribute $840,000 upon certificate of occupancy of 2 out of 3 potential anchor tenants out of Dunham, IGA, and Tractor Supply, and that was to represent, I think, half of the total price of the project. And so that's the nature of the agreement. Unless that agreement is fulfilled verbatim, then we have no obligation to pay it. But I would say for the record that we didn't request IGA.
No, I just had mentioned it, and I asked which they would rather prefer, and they said the IGA would be what they prefer, so that's the one I pursued. Mayor Milan.
And that's inaccurate. I want to put that on the record.
Okay.
I can speak to that.
I'm sorry. I misunderstood then.
No, what was said was,
I'm sorry.
Because my first understanding was it was gonna be a Whole Foods. I heard Whole Foods from somebody besides you,
Oh, okay.
because it was supposed to be a grocer.
We remember that too, Whole Foods.
And I don't know where that, might have been a rumor, Scott,
Well, Eric Robbie was saying Whole Foods at first.
was it?
Yeah, but then he changed to IGA,
Okay.
so.
So, I mean, we didn't care, grocery store was mentioned, but IGA specifically was never.
Let me clarify, he said like a Whole Foods, he didn't say Whole Foods, he said like a Whole Foods, so.
You know, listen, we think you've done a really nice job over there, okay, on the aesthetics and things. I think, this group, and I'm not speaking for this group, but my opinion, I think that, we gotta come up with a grocer slash some type of retail over there. I mean, and then if you wanna bring Planet Fitness in, that's your prerogative. But in order to fulfill the agreement as it's written, I mean, they would have to approve any, like, grocer, I know that the agreement says IGA, but I would assume that grocer slash retail, tenant. I mean, that was the whole premise of the original agreement.
It was definitely merchants oriented shopping, like the sports store, wasn't there talk?
Dunham Sports, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, you know, those were all a different type of business that bring people in, and I'm not saying this won't bring people in, but they're not there to, you know, spend money and create business and so. Again, I agree with the attorney. This is a commitment that we made to you based on certain things happening, and it's a big amount of money. It's large, it's substantial. And I have to stand personally, as far as my vote, I can only speak for one person up there. But I couldn't personally go along with you tonight. I don't know how anybody else feels, because they're not talking, and I'll shut up.
I'll continue looking for an IGA. I'll do my best.
I think it's important to note from my perspective that had Scott brought in 3 other names, we probably would have went along with it. You know, the outcome here is a fully developed mall, commerce, people doing what they need to do. And I'm not telling you to do anything different, but I think if there wouldn't have been anybody on that list, it just would have been redevelop that mall, have a few major anchor tenants that the market demands, not what we think. So I don't want to be on record as forcing an IGA in there if they're not going to be successful.
Nobody said that.
So I just think we need to consider what the market demands, and is that best for Lawrenceburg long term.
Well, I think you said it best, Scott. In the past, yeah, there's been grants given to you know, restaurants and stores and everything else. And yeah, they turned around and left after a certain amount of time, short periods of time. That's exactly why we decided to take the stance when we first took over, that we don't pay out any money until the project is done, because we tried to learn from those, and that I you know, it's because, you know, council and redevelopment we all chose to go that route. Listen, that money's over here, it's been encumbered. She gave a report on the finances for redevelopment, and part of that encumbered money is the $840,000. It's sitting there for the taking. It's just gotta be performed. It's gotta be performed. And you know, if you come back and you say, hey, I got a grocer, it doesn't have to be IGA. If you come come back and say, I got a grocery, I got this, and they agree to make that modification, then you fulfill that agreement. And that's just me speaking, they're the voters on that.
I know.
I'm just saying that, you know.
I understand, I did agree to that, and so, you know, I will work very hard to try to find an
I think the board would
IGA.
consider, you know, a different plan if you had one, that, because what we want is a full thing down there. We want the shops full. If you did the Planet Fitness and the other space left there, you brought in maybe a bulk grocery. And that would be something.
That's
that
still
we
my,
could work with Mr.
you know.
Messmore, and he could bring it to us, and we could consider that.
Everybody I've talked to, the GNC, of course, loves the idea of Planet Fitness, and the chiropractor loves it, and the hairdresser loves it. Everybody was loving it, and they're, you know, I guess, you know, I'll work very hard to find an IGA. You know, I'll try to find somebody.
Doesn't necessarily have to be an IGA, it could be a small store.
I know evidently there's not many grocers around here because of Kroger. You know, Kroger is, it's like their hometown, Cincinnati, and they pushed everybody out, so nobody's really interested. They say that Kroger will sell below cost just to keep their hold, you know, so that's,
There's, Dunham was a sporting complex.
yes, sir.
Now, is the exercise shop selling t-shirts or sweatshirts?
They do, but not as much as Dunham Sports.
Well,
Dunham's
yeah,
is,
but I mean, I'm just trying to get you in the heading.
Yeah.
That they're talking about a sports complex. Well, Dunham's not a sports complex either. It's
No,
a
they-
sporting goods store. But it wouldn't, it wouldn't fit in the description that we've got as far as,
yeah.
I mean, even the changing dynamics in the market, I mean, Dunham's would probably be reluctant to invest in open retail. I mean, with Amazon, I mean, you know, Kroger, Walmart, everybody's changing.
Yeah, they're not expanding anymore. They're gonna be
So,
contracting
I mean,
probably
there's,
within 5
different
years.
dynamics in the
So,
market, and I think, you know, we need to make sure we understand that we may not be the market experts, and that the market demand may need to be considered.
it's just Planet Fitness is such a strong tenant. They bring in so much business. There's so much traffic, and they're national. They do all kinds of benefit stuff. You know, they try to get involved with the city. And I guess I can understand where you're coming from, though. You know, you want obviously a grocer would give people more choice than just Walmart and Kroger. I guess I was looking at Planet Fitness will give somebody a new choice that's just, you know, it's really, they're going to put a whole bunch of money into it, and it's just a really nice looking place, and it's lit up and vibrant, and that's just what I was looking for in a shopping center tenant. So.
Do you have in mind, if you had to have a third tenant for the leftover space?
Only nationals or regionals. I thought about Gabe's, which is regional. I haven't heard back from them yet, and I don't know about the size of the space. It's very complicated because when I tell them Lawrenceburg, I have to tell them other towns as well. You know, a lot of people want to pass, and then I have to sell it to them. And the highway out there has a lot of traffic, so that helps sell it to them. But I'm not familiar enough with Gabe's yet to know their MO and what they look for, but I'm working on it. They would be possibly a third tenant or something like that. Are you familiar with Gabe's?
Never heard of it.
It's like a little department store. They sell, you know, sort of kind of like Walmart, but not near as big. It's a kind of a discount store like Walmart is, you know. Maybe competes a little bit with the dollar stores.
Isn't there a Family Dollar already?
There is, and that's another issue that they've got. Before I got here, they have got the exclusive on almost they have the whole page of exclusives. And whoever the landlord was before me, or the one before him, had signed Family Dollar, and they had just went along with the lease, and so I can't get any dollar stores, there's a huge amount of stores that I just can't even approach because they're in there. So that's been a tough hurdle as well. As I saw this, here's one that has no conflicting, no conflict with Planet Fitness or anything. It just seemed like a really home run to fill the center up. But I can understand you guys, I did say a grocery store or a IGA, and so.
Well, if you can find a grocery store or find a third store for that space, and then get with Mr. Messmore and maybe come in and give us a presentation on that and work out.
Well, Brian brings up a good point, it's market driven.
Yeah.
I realize, so.
It's still open there.
I'll work hard on finding a grocery store. So, thank you for your time, guys.
Okay, hearing that, that was under new business. There's no more old business, so we're,
You're up to do one more thing.
yes.
I forgot to mention on the other two structures over on, Short Street, where they're doing the, tuck pointing now. The tuck pointing is complete, it needs to be acid scrubbed yet and sprayed off. Would you want them to put that sealer on there, or do you have plans to paint that? In other words, you would keep it a natural brick look, or would you consider painting on it?
Which one would last longer?
Well, the sealer's gonna last long, it's just not gonna be as pretty. Yeah, I hope
No, you don't see none of it, after you
Yeah,
get structure in there.
exactly.
What about the expense between painting and the sealer?
I can get the cost, I mean, the sealer was like, I think, 4,200, that sound right? It was in that cost estimate given to you earlier.
Is that something that wears away if we paint it over a period of time?
Well, if you can't paint, if you put the sealer in, you cannot paint it.
So the sealer is the answer, though.
It's up to you. The paint's gonna be a maintenance issue if you're gonna keep the structure.
Motion by the board to do something with it.
I don't have any recommendation.
My recommendation would just put a sealer on the sealer.
I think it'd be better off to make a sealer.
I thought we were gonna seal it from the get-go, so.
What will it look like if it's long-term and that lot stays empty?
There is a acid we can wash the sealer off with and then paint it.
Okay.
So there is an option.
I'd make a motion we're good with the sealer.
Do you have a cost on it, or?
That cost was in your original
It's
package.
built in?
It was in that original package.
I have a motion by Randy to seal that property.
Second.
Second by Dennis, all in favor?
Aye.
All right.
Thank you.
Anything else? So we'll move on to approval of claims once properly certified. I have one to add to that didn't get on there. An LMU utility bill for 300 Margaret at the amount of $56.62. So add that to it. Always bringing these bills.
Utility is an expensive function.
How much was it?
$56.62. I gotta have those 2 pennies too.
62 cents. Say, let it go.
Although, he made a nice presentation the other night on the apartment complex. Just wanna put that on the record. Mr. Chairman, speaking of the apartment complex, and somebody brought it up, I wanna remind, council, that we passed a month ago a favorable recommendation to go forward. And I don't know if that has any merit or not, but we still feel that it should go forward.
That's the levy project, one on
No,
High Street?
yeah,
The levy, yeah.
They came back.
the Lewis.
We're meeting with them on Wednesday afternoon.
I would also recommend if it's at all possible, to get Jerry, one of their owners here. He's a heck of a salesman. He's honest. He knows what he's doing. He can make the he can help us with the presentation.
Well, I think the presentation isn't the problem, though. I think everybody's sold on the property, it's just the money.
Oh, no, we need the hard figures.
That's
There's no
the
question about it. We
That I
gotta-
know of, that's what we're waiting on, is hard figures.
I think we'd like to build it, we just gotta
You know, Mr. Mayor.
justify the money.
Everybody out there, I mean, the other night I didn't say it because we were following a rather tenuous session on the fly ash.
Yeah.
So it was hard to deal with that. But in my opinion, my wife and I have been here 19 years. And we've been affiliated with downtown for most of that. And this is the first project that I personally see outside of the infrastructure and a couple of others that has long-term benefit for the city of Lawrenceburg, where the dollars are gonna stay here and the payback is reasonable, adding 300 people that have income. The properties, if you go visit them, everybody that's been there, they're phenomenal. I just think it's a positive piece of investment. And I don't even know how to begin what the economic impact is gonna be, but I think it's gonna be significant.
The 53% that Lawrenceburg will put up doesn't bother you?
I sat next to you the other night and I said, it does bother me. So we need those numbers. And they have to come down.
That's what it all comes down
I'm
to.
just
I
giving
think
an
we're
additional.
all in favor of it, we just want the hard fact, the hard numbers. We have to have hard numbers before you can vote on something.
If we didn't have the boat income, would they come down here and make
Wait a
their
minute,
presentation?
I have an argument to this. When we had our last meeting, and we had the presentation when Darren made it, right? I don't think the ending of that meeting was any different than the ending of the meeting the other night. What am I missing?
Well, no, you don't listen much at all.
Okay.
You're probably right. I brought it up the other night as an add-on because I thought I just needed to get direction from council and redevelopment on, okay, do you want me to go forward and, it's just about the numbers at this point, is what I believe. And we just gotta figure out how.
What's their response to that request? Have you talked to them about the numbers? I mean, what's their response to our,
That's what we're doing Wednesday.
so we'll know this week, is what you're saying?
Well, I mean, they're
We'll
gonna
know more.
put it together, yeah,
Okay.
because maybe there's some options or something, you know?
Okay. All right, so we'll move on to approval of claims once properly certified with the LMU added for $56.62 for 300 Margaret. In favor to pay the claims? Motion?
So moved.
Motion by Dennis, do I have a second?
Feel like I work for the utility.
Paul, yes.
Aye.
All in favor?
Aye.
Against? Claims passed. Comments from the audience?
I should be on the payroll.
My name is Tim Denning. Guys, if there is something I know something about, it's the food business. And that gentleman trying to sell you a Planet Fitness deal as opposed to an IGA, Whole Foods, it doesn't matter. There's not a small grocery store that's gonna survive. You can force him to get a grocer in there. It's gonna be here 6 months, go out of business. The people in Lawrenceburg killed that IGA via social media. Just nothing but dog that IGA. It was horrible. I was embarrassed. But my point is you can hold his feet to the fire, force him to put a grocery store in there. He cannot compete. A small grocery chain cannot compete with Kroger's and Walmart. It's impossible. They don't have the buying power. People in Lawrenceburg are not going to patronize a business and pay 65 cents for a can of vegetables when they can get them for 25 cents at Kroger's or Walmart. Guys, it's just not going to work. So to hold that gentleman accountable for putting a grocery store in there, I'm telling you, 6 months from now, after he gets one in there, you're gonna be telling him to do it again and again and again. It's not gonna survive.
That's why we say grocery or retail, we're willing to accept different types of businesses, but not just a grocery.
I just heard a grocery store, an IGA, an IGA, an IGA.
Retail, that's what we wanted in the beginning, everybody wanted an IGA, and we said grocery, retail. If there's a good retail business he can bring in there, then that's why we wanted him to do a little scout and see what he can find and get back with us.
I don't quite understand the opposition to Planet Fitness. In my mind, that would be huge. Planet Fitness advertises itself with their signage. It's right there on 50. Planet Fitness would be a huge plus for Lawrenceburg. High volume traffic going by. Look, they got a Planet Fitness. I just didn't understand the opposition there. But that's neither here nor there. To me, that would be, quote, the ideal thing to have in there.
Well, part of it is, Tim, I would say, and this is just me, was to get that grant, you had to have this much space filled. And that much space is not filled with Planet Fitness. So if he wants to get Planet Fitness and get another retail space next to it, that's something we will consider. And then he gets that grant money. We're not against Planet Fitness, per se. We just want, you get that grant, you get that space filled.
Maybe I misunderstood. You just told him get a grocery store in there, he doesn't get a grant.
Grocer/retail. We asked him to go work on another plan.
I have 3 tenants on the list, so I have to pick from those 3, is what,
No.
right?
We discussed it there at the end. If you want to get with Mr. Messmore, if you got other stores that you can bring in there, and come down and give us talk to us. We're willing to work.
Again, I don't
It's not doing
see,
you any good like that, it's not doing us any good like that empty. We don't want it empty, and you want it full, we
I
want
hate
it full.
losing Planet Fitness is just such a good, I understand that you guys feel a little bit different, but it's just such a, I've never thought they'd wanna be here. I just was calling and I got lucky, I'm like, wow.
We'll find something to fill that other space, and then we'll all be good.
I can't with no, the money it takes one to subdivide it, and that's kind of the grant money, I spent every bit plus more on the facade there to try to make it look good, and I can't take a chance, I can't spend money I don't have unless I knew, that it would fulfill the grant, because I couldn't take a chance on putting, I just need to really look for an IGA user, because I can't take a chance, I can't spend, there's no more money to spend until I get the grant money, and so I really have to look for an IGA.
I think we're losing the point here. We said a number of times it doesn't have to be an IGA, a grocer/retail in that third spot. That way all of the square footage is taken, and then they'll look at that, and it's.
well, let me ask,
Retail.
what is the opposition of Planet Fitness?
There's no opposition.
That's huge, to have a Planet Fitness in your community.
By the time I find the third tenant, these people will be gone. They have to open it in August. Maybe next year they'll be around too, but Dunham's changed. I thought Dunham's would be around and they changed. So it's just right now they're interested, and it's just really fickle. How the tenants are, they're really fickle.
Do you need the grant money to bring in Planet Fitness?
Yes.
You have to have the money to bring them in?
I would have to, acquire a loan to do them, knowing that I could pay it back with the grant. I would have to put up some.
You need the full amount of that grant money?
To bring them in, I don't need the full amount,
How much do you need?
most of it. I haven't did the figures, but, $500,000 or $600,000 to bring them in.
That's too close to the full amount.
Because the next space that's left is just left there, all the money is spent subdividing it, for the other tenant. Planet Fitness is not a cheap tenant, they're a good tenant, but they cost money, they cost a lot of money to put in. I was just excited that, that they were willing to come. But I will work on finding, I've been working on retail too, trying to find retail, you know. I've been trying to sell anything I can to that center to try to get it to come back. We've got a good looking center and I'm still optimistic and I'm gonna do what I can. I'll do my best to try to find a tenant that you guys like. So.
My other thing I wanted to talk about briefly, and I know I'm gonna honk some people off here, but I kinda like doing that anyway. In the last meeting, it was discussed about the apartment complex on High Street. Everybody seems to be in favor of it, and my opinion is, guys, we don't need more rental property in Lawrenceburg. The block that I live on, between Center Street and William Street, there are 42 rental units, 6 owner-occupied houses. That's an unbelievable ratio. I drove over to Short Street, same scenario. I drove over to Vine Street, same scenario. I drove up Walnut Street. Every 2-story building on Walnut Street, at least 80% of them have an apartment above them.
That's the way it's designed.
You look around Lawrenceburg, you got Tuscany Bay, you got all those apartments on the hill, you got apartment complexes all over the city. Before we invest in additional apartment complexes, why don't we understand what the ratio is of rental properties to owner-occupied properties in the city of Lawrenceburg, within the city of limits? I think you'll find it about 60-40, with the 60 being rental properties.
Probably right.
That's ridiculous. And apartment complexes, when they're originally built, they're beautiful. You're just amazed at them. Then the developer, the management, they get in a little bit of trouble. All of a sudden, the maintenance repairs start to slide. The heat and air start to go bad. It starts to be neglected. And 10 years from now, you could have a project, something that looks like the projects down there. So if you're going to go forward with that, then build in something that talks about continuous maintenance. Don't let them come in, get a bunch of money to build a project, and then abandon it. And we're stuck with a great big building that after a year or so, they gotta fill in the swimming pool. They can't afford to operate that. They got to do a lot of other things. We just don't need, Tuscany Bay is the perfect example. That was a beautiful piece of property. Look at it today. And nobody that lives in Tuscany Bay will tell you they like it there. It's a rough area. But the first 2 years it was built, it was beautiful. But again, the owner just neglects it. That's all I got, guys.
Anybody else in the audience?
As a friendly rebuttal to the last comments that were made. As general manager for utilities, I have on several occasions met with developers, builders who want to come to the community to build custom homes for residents of Lawrenceburg or in the area. The risk associated with that for those builders is far greater in terms of the amount of money that they have to put up to develop those units and the amount of money the utility would have to put up in terms of providing service to those utilities, to those buildings. We currently have a very capable developer who wants to develop over in the Wilson Creek area, 20 homes, custom homes, minimum square footage about 3,500 square foot, complete bricks around, beautiful, beautiful subdivision. The amount of money that the utilities would have to contribute to that project is far, far greater for those 20 meters turning than it is for an apartment complex like this. The amount of money that the developer would have to put into that project is millions of dollars per unit more than what the apartment complex is for a similar return. What I would say about the security, you talk about having language written into the agreement that would secure the debt or compel them to take care of their infrastructure. Well, I think the 16 million or whatever the number is that they would invest in that, I think that's a lot of compelling. I think that amount of money from a private investor, and an investor that this council and this redevelopment commission has done, I think, a stellar job in vetting. I think that's a lot of reasons for them to stay interested and stay up on their property management issues. You mentioned a lot of properties that are for rent in the Lawrenceburg area. We don't have an apartment complex that is even close to this in terms of the quality of craftsmanship, the things that are offered, and the tenants that it will attract to this area. I sit in a lot of meetings with the city, some of them Civic Park, business meetings, small development business meetings, things of that nature. And we always talk about what can we have, what can we bring to the community that would help reestablish the downtown area. You're talking about potentially 300 individuals coming to the downtown area who are well-to-do, who are employed, gainfully employed, who will walk our streets, who will shop in the shops, who will spend time in the community center, spend time at the pool, spend time at all these different things, the civic park that we're talking about building. If you want a way to gold plate, bulletproof your civic park plan for use, for patronage, etc., it is having an apartment complex of this caliber located in your community. If you want to secure low rates over time for your residents, I want you to think about the simple fact that before 2 years is even up, the electric department will recoup 100% of its upfront investment for that facility. That means that all of the costs that I have associated, the fixed costs that we're paying anyway, have now been diluted by an additional 150 meters. That means that I can secure or guarantee low rates for those customers, you guys and your constituents, over a longer period of time. The more numbers, the more meters that we add to the system, the greater we dilute those fixed costs. I'm supportive of the apartment complex. I'm supportive of the development in Wilson Creek. We do everything that we can to help draw and entice businesses to this community. So long as you guys can get right with the numbers, it is in the utility's best interest, and therefore the city's best interest, to bring these kind of projects to our community. That's all I have to say.
I got one last thing. Like I said before, I live in downtown Lawrenceburg. Downtown Lawrenceburg has lost its hometown feel. We're not a neighborhood anymore. I have moving pickup trucks in front of my house almost weekly because I got 42 rental units on my block. I never even get to know people. People come in with kids, they rent for maybe 4 or 5 months and they're gone. I never get a chance to meet them. So, yeah, everything Olin said is right, and I agree 100% with him. However, how do you maintain a neighborhood type environment when you have constant transient people? Renters are usually people just getting started, or people that can't afford a down payment to buy a home. And anybody can afford $1,100 a month in rent can buy a whole bunch of house. I mean, you can buy a lot of houses. You can buy 2 or 3 houses with $1,100 a month. So my point is I agree with Olin. It depends on the direction you want to take Lawrenceburg. Do you want to keep Lawrenceburg, that small town neighborhood feel, or do you want a bunch of transient people in and out that move on every 6-month basis? It's up to you guys.
Oh, that's why we have a home builders program too, to help these ones that are renting to get that down payment to build a home. That's why Mr. Seymour's built. We've had more houses built in this town in the last
2009.
Since 2009, probably
43.
40 years before that. There was not a new house being built in Lawrenceburg, maybe one every 15 years.
But how many did we tear down?
Well, we tore down, we built new. You're
No.
talking about Hollywood, there've been a lot of houses tore down. All of Germantown's gone.
That's right.
But that's Hollywood, and that's a whole
There's a
different
lot
ball.
of rental
I'm talking
properties.
about trying to get people to buy homes here in Lawrenceburg. And I think that's worked out real well, real well. I mean, yes, there've been a lot of homes tore
But
down.
those are all outsiders too that came in and bought those houses.
but they're not
Most
outsiders.
of them wasn't locals.
Once they're outsiders,
Well,
they're
there's a
not
lot of us
outsiders
here that
anymore.
aren't locals now.
Once they're in here, they're insiders. Johnny, they're part of our Lawrenceburg family. But there's a lot of those too that were Lawrenceburgers that bought those homes. But that's what it's for the people who cannot, they're paying such high rent, they couldn't save a down payment. That's why we help them out with that down payment.
Well, and that's the point Holmes was making, to your point, Tim, the renters of this unit will not be transient, persons. They'll be people who could afford to live in the 20-person, $450,000 subdivision, but they choose to live there permanently. And that's the difference, they won't be transient because of the quality of the development. Yeah.
These people have done their due diligence in the area. They're confident that the sales are coming from outside of Lawrenceburg. They're not in competition with this 60% number that you're talking about in Lawrenceburg. They don't wanna touch it. It's a whole different group. They're gonna run 30% empty nesters. Think about that for a minute. How many empty nesters do we have in Lawrenceburg? Not many. Not many.
Not many can afford $1,100 a month.
Tim, there are so many people that would love to live on the river down here. Our access is fantastic to Kentucky, to Cincinnati. It's not congested like it is in other areas. They've done their numbers on this. They really have. And they're not gonna be competitive with any of the people that own apartments here. They're not going after the Lawrenceburg crowd. They're gonna get some of them. But if Mary and I found a buyer for our new house across from you, and we were satisfied with the money, broke even, Mary and I would empty nest and move into this new place if it was built. In a second.
I honestly hope you're right, but I see it as just another rental property. And
Well,
Lord
it is a
knows
rental.
Lawrenceburg has enough rental property. Why couldn't it be condos, or why couldn't it be something that?
Take them up to Fishers. Take them up to Fishers and let them meet the people there, okay? And then talk to Tim. Because I believe that when you go up there and you see how they operate and the people that live there, that you will change.
And I'm gonna move in with Dennis and Mary, so.
We got you covered.
Millennials and seniors, Tim, that's who wants the apartments right now.
I hope, God, it's a success, I honestly do, but I just have my doubts.
A lot of them, you say the $1,100 they should go buy a house, they don't want to buy a house, they don't wanna take care of the property.
And I understand that.
They wanna get home from work, go out and eat, go look through the shops.
You know how many kids this group claims they'll have here, children?
How many what?
You know how many children they think will be living in the building? Half a dozen. Maximum.
Because when they have children,
They're gonna buy a house over
they're
here.
gonna buy a house in the Lawrenceburg
If that.
program.
Any other comments from the audience? If not, I would take a motion for adjournment. Quiet you guys up over here. That's the second time, man. Third time I'm kicking you out.
Well, the mayor started.
Motion, second?
I'll make it.
Hold on, yeah.